The Last of Us is full of death. Some of our favorite characters don't even get to see another episode before being killed off. Ellie has lost a lot of close friends, and a lot of fans are starting to feel that she is destined to be alone. The series follows the same story as the games, and if the next season is the same as the games, we're in for a few extremely sad episodes. We all know that Sarah had to die as her death hardened Joel, and the father-daughter relationship that develops between him and Ellie is so much stronger, since he has already lost a daughter. So do you think that Ellie and Joel's relationship stems from Sarah's death? At the start of the series, we saw a Joel who wasn't quite fond of Ellie. He saw her only as a burden, and her sarcastic personality didn't help to warm up Joel's cold personality. It's clear that Ellie reminds him of his daughter, the one he lost in probably one of the most memorable scenes from the game. However, the dynamic shifted massively when he couldn't deliver her to the Fireflies. As the series progresses, we see Ellie and Joel bond more and more.
Pay $12 for a sandwich.
Dude, you got to go up in the sky.
Yeah, well, so did they.
This bond is mostly fueled by Joel's loss for Sarah, and once he became attached to Ellie, we saw him give her over to Tommy. He didn't want to lose Ellie, but when Ellie makes her feelings clear that she doesn't want to go without him,
Look, it's me.
he gets extremely protective of his surrogate daughter and will do anything, no matter how brutal it is, to keep her safe. This unshakable love is what directly leads to the ending of the first season, and Sarah's death drives the ending of the first season. However, it wasn't just Sarah's death that shocked the world when we watched the series. Unless you played the games, of course, then you just watched your friends who haven't played the games sit there in shock. But let's get back to Ellie. So many close characters to her have died, and one of the most recent ones that we saw was Riley. Ellie is a complex character. She's growing up in a world that isn't as safe as it was before. She has had to endure a lot of things that children her age didn't have to, and she's seen so many of her friends and loved ones come and go. Some have abandoned her, and many have died. In episode 7, we saw the story of Riley and Ellie, and how she got bit. This episode was set 3 weeks before episode 1, and explains the relationship that Ellie and Riley had. So obviously Riley dies at the end of episode 7. We saw an infected attacking Ellie and Riley, and the two fighting him off together. Sadly, after they killed it, both of them saw that they were bitten. The final few moments of the episode saw Riley and Ellie spending their last few minutes together. However, as you already know, Ellie didn't die, and we got to see the rest of her story unfold in the series. But many fans are wondering, what happened to Riley? We already know that Ellie is the only person who is immune in the series, so Riley would have eventually turned into an infected. And while it's not shown in the series, we can speculate that either Ellie or the Fireflies killed Riley. Ellie's comments about hurting people in episode 4 likely applied to Riley. That is probably why she didn't want to talk about it with Joel. And believe it or not, there's actually a good reason why they didn't show her death in the series. It's like Bill and Frank's death. At the end of episode 3, they didn't show us the bodies on the bed. This ambiguous ending leads to more powerful storytelling and doesn't tarnish what is a beautiful story. It's clear that Ellie's biggest fear is the thought of being alone, and the thought of Riley slowly dying and leaving Ellie is even more heartbreaking than an actual death scene. Ellie's story is closely tied to Riley's fate. Ellie clearly has survivor's guilt, and her aforementioned greatest fear is intrinsically linked to her guilt. The reason she's afraid of being alone is because everyone she's cared for is gone, and her immunity is a big reason that she's feeling so guilty. Her first love, Riley, was the first person that she lost to the infection, since she found out she was immune. This kickstarted her survivor guilt, and we're most likely to continue to see more of this guilt in the upcoming season. The death of Riley is also a big part of her fear of being alone. Ellie is an orphan, and she most likely grew up very attached to Riley. This is why her death is so impactful to Ellie's fear. This fear is only worsened as more and more people died. The first season had a lot of deaths, Tess being one of the hardest ones to witness. Just imagine being French kissed by an infected. Ew. This death hit Joel a bit harder than it did Ellie, but the deaths of Sam and Henry was very hard on Ellie. All of these deaths were directly because of or greatly influenced by people becoming infected. Joel won't ever just abandon Ellie, but we're going to steer clear from any major spoilers. So we're not going to talk too much about what is most likely going to happen between Ellie and Joel in Season 2, but we will talk a bit about this season's ending and what we can expect from Season 2. From what we know, Season 2 won't cover the entirety of The Last of Us Part 2. The show's creators said that the events from Part 2 will require multiple seasons. As for how many seasons, we don't know. And since we're keeping clear from major The Last of Us Part 2 spoilers, we'll only say this. We can expect to see new characters in the upcoming season, or, well, hopefully, seasons. Bella Ramsey has already said that she is excited for Ellie and Dina's story. She also said that she's super excited to explore Joel and Ellie's relationship as it becomes more complex.
How attached are you to Pedro?
I'm pretty attached.
Okay, don't
Probably
watch it
unhealthily
then.
attached to him.
Yeah.
So don't watch it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if I would say that, do you think it will upset you? No.
It also appears that The Last of Us Season 1 finale has seeded the arrival of a major Part 2 character, with the climactic episode featuring a cameo that will delight fans of the game. In fact, fans are already dreamcasting Abby. Most fans are in agreement and hoping to see Shannon Barry from The Wilds in the role. Sadly, we also have no idea when the next season is going to come out, but we can say that HBO thankfully renewed the series for another season. To end things off for this video, did you know that the deaths in the show are parallel to Ellie and Joel? Sam and Henry and Frank and Bill all died together as the thought of being without each other is too hard to bear. This foreshadowed the ending of Season 1. Joel decided to save Ellie since he cannot live without her. This was a great hint throughout the series, and we're glad the first season was as good as it is. We loved seeing Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey in the roles of Ellie and Joel, and we can't wait to see what happens in the next season. If you haven't played the games, you really should. And this is going to be goodbye until the next video. This is a spoiler warning, so be sure to leave if you don't want a spoiler. The parallels between the characters' deaths in the series sets up Joel's death as well. Henry couldn't save Sam and Bill couldn't save Frank, but Joel knows he must do anything and everything to keep Ellie safe, even if this means there are going to be repercussions in the future. His death and the possibility of a cure isn't what's important to him. He only cares about Ellie. And the song that Joel sings to Ellie in the game explains this the best. If I ever were to lose you, I'd surely lose myself. We hope that you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time.